It's time to talk about some books. So let's talk about, hold on, let me get into position. Let's talk about what I read in June. All right, so I'm switching up the camera angle slightly. Just bear with me, because I'm going to put stuff up here. That's what I'm going to do. June, I of course started off with Empire of Silence, which is book one of the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio, and a fantastic book one of a series. Excellent space opera, politics, interesting characters, ancient alien civilizations, different languages, a fantastic blend of gorgeous poetic prose with straightforward words when needed, and just a ton of action, a lot of great slower moments. This book was fantastic for me, blew me away. Totally in on this series and impressed by Christopher Rocchio as an author. Just after this book one, I thought it was so good. And I hear that the rest of the books are so much better, which is awesome to hear. And I'm reading Howling Dark here in a couple of days, actually, when I finish up A Time of Dread. Can't wait to continue that and then chat with Leanna about it, because we had a lot to say about the first book and all the comparisons to Dune and Red Rising and everything else. Really excited to see what Howling Dark has to offer, but Empire of Silence, if you haven't read it, definitely go out and read it. It's fantastic. Next up, the gorgeous, wonderful finale to Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb, book 3 of the Farseer trilogy. Now, of course, nearly all these have reviews up on my channel already. Some of the latter ones will not yet, but they will be up later this week. There are reviews for Assassin's Quest and Empire of Silence already on the channel, though. Assassin's Quest was great. I do have some minor gripes with it. I absolutely understand people's frustrations with sort of some of the things with the ending and the pacing and the length of the book. Definitely, it could have been trimmed, at least sort of rearranged without getting into anything spoilers. There are spoilers at the end of my Assassin's Quest review. It's a long book. It's almost 900 pages. It's significantly longer than Royal Assassin, and it's double Assassin's Apprentice. It's not short. It is a very long quest, and I feel like if not shortening the book a little bit, you could have rearranged some of the beginning and middle, what was going on, and made the ending a little bit longer, because in a book this long, the ending did feel a little bit rushed, a little bit convenient at times. I felt like it could have just been done a little bit better, and I feel like a little bit more time to, I'm saying a little bit a lot, aren't I? More time to breathe would have changed that, or sort of fixed the minor issues that I had with that. The beginning, though, honestly, was one of the most interesting and fantastic introductions and sort of beginnings to a book that I've read in a long time. It was brilliant, and if you've read the series, I think you know what I'm talking about. I've never seen something like that done, so that was really cool. Overall, though, this series was great. I've already ordered the Live Ship trilogy. It's coming from Book Depository, so who the hell knows when it'll get here. Probably while I'm not home. It'll probably show up when I'm at the beach, which is unfortunate. Hopefully no one takes it off of my front step. But I definitely am looking forward to more Robin Hobb. I love her writing style. I love her character work. And everybody tells me the Live Ship is fantastic, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. Probably start that in a couple months. But Farseer, man, it was great. I'm so glad that I came back to it and gave it a second chance after really not liking Assassin's Apprentice the first time around, but it was good. Next up, and for some reason I feel like June was like so long ago. I don't know why. Have you guys ever had this happen where the month literally just ended and I was like, what did I read last month? I feel like I couldn't remember what the hell I read for some reason. Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, though, actually won our Howler pick for the month of June, which was awesome because I love mixing in these shorter sci-fi stories. This is very much a mystery thriller with a heavy science overtone, just because of the nature of what this book deals with. I thought it was awesome. It was well paced. It was well written. I loved the amount of science in it, and it was actually more than I was expecting. It got a little bit more technical and detailed at times than I expected from a sort of a sci-fi thriller. So that was cool. The entire concept is is really, really intriguing, and I do have a full review of this as well on the channel, so check that out. And it did make me want to read more Blake Crouch. Everybody talks about recursion, and they said that it feels very similar to this book. I don't know if that's just the way that it's written or like the tone or the pacing, but I'm not going to read it right away because I have seen a few people say, like, if you read them back to back, they kind of feel too similar. Let me know in the comments down below if that's true or not. But I do want to read more Blake Crouch, though, because I did really enjoy this one, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else he has to offer. I do think somebody told me this is going to be adapted, so I will be on the lookout for that, because this does sort of read like a TV show or a movie. Like, I definitely want to see this on screen, because I think that would be a really fun and interesting thing to go watch in a movie theater. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, and more from Blake Crouch. Next up, I'm going to talk about both of these together now, and as well in a video later this week, Crossroads of Twilight and New Spring. So I did finally make it out of the slog. Crossroads of Twilight, so for those of you that don't know, I have been doing most of the slog through audio just because it hasn't been that interesting. Any book that I do on audio, this is just like a weird thing that I do. I always read the last like 50 to 100 pages of the book just because I feel like I get more out of it. And I'm going to be honest, the slog didn't have much going for it, but the endings are always great in Wheel of Time books until this book. This book really did nothing. This is definitely, I think this is the lowest rating that I've given to a book on Goodreads, and just a Wheel of Time book especially. I think Path of Daggers I had given 2 stars, maybe even 3 stars. This got 1. This book was dog shit. There's not a lot happening in this book, which is why I ended up jumping straight into New Spring. I initially was going to do New Spring in July as my Wheel of Time book, but it was so short. I don't even think it was 400 pages. And unfortunately, and yeah, I'm done talking about Crossroads of Twilight. The slog is done. Cool. I get to do, what, Knife of Dreams now? That's the one. That's a chunky boy. All the remaining ones are massive tomes. But the slog, I definitely felt it. I really strongly feel like if I had been around for Wheel of Time during its publication, I would have quit. Path of Daggers, I probably would have stopped the series altogether. But as I'm reading it now, and everybody's sort of telling me that you can fight through the slog, just get to the good books, I hope it's worth it, and I feel like it's going to be worth it. I really feel like these 4 books should have been 2 books. I think there's enough content between the slog books that if you could have made 2 fantastic books out of the content that's here and not even had a slog. Like if you left off with Lord of Chaos, and instead of sort of having continued falling action of A Crown of Swords, which I still liked, there's a good amount going on, but definitely not throughout the entire book. And then Path of Daggers, where there's like really not a lot going on until the end, and then Winter's Heart, where there's really not anything going on until the final chapter, and then Crossroads of Twilight, where it's like kind of happening simultaneously with Winter's Heart, and there's really nothing happening. The lack of plot throughout the slog, if you had just combined those 4 books into 2, I feel like you would have had a nonstop, hit after hit, fantastic series with minor lows. Because I loved Eye of the World. I really liked The Great Hunt. I didn't care that much for The Dragon Reborn, but it's still a really good book. And then it was like Shadow Rising, great. Fires of Heaven, overall good, but had some weird moments. I was like, why is this in here? And then Lord of Chaos was incredible. And then A Crown of Swords was pretty good. But then you get that like Path of Daggers to Crossroads of Twilight, where there's just not enough to get you through 1,800 pages of books, however long it is. It is just, okay, if you know anything about like Wheel of Time wiki sites or Dragon Mount or the Tar Valon site, where they have like recaps and summaries and stuff, I made a joke about this because I was like, this is seriously like as part of a summary for Crossroads of Twilight, Matt made Tuon smile. New Spring, I didn't really like either. Luckily, it was very short. But what I thought New Spring was going to be, and maybe it would have been had Robert Jordan actually done what I believe was going to be a second prequel novel. I really thought this was going to be a story about Lan and Moraine right before they got to the two rivers, where we start off with Eye of the World, where Rand, Mat, and Perrin are teenagers, and like that entire book starts, and Moraine and Lan show up and sort of sweep them out of the two rivers to take them on, where the entire Wheel of Time begins. That's what I thought I was going to get. I thought it was going to be like the weeks or months leading up to Moraine and Lan getting there, finding Rand, Mat, and Perrin. That's not what this book is. For some reason, this is like the one that I didn't actually know what to expect, or like what I was actually going to get, which is really just Swan and Moraine at school. This is like a cute little side quest that's for the most part irrelevant to the overall enjoyment of the story. I don't think this really adds anything significant to the story. It could easily be skipped unless you really just want to know about Swan and Moraine 15 years before we meet Rand. Like, this was like, you're learning about the dragon reborn being born. Moraine and Swan are accepted. Like, they become Aes Sedai during the book. It's just what it focused on, I didn't care about. And I actually like these characters. I thought it was going to be a more interesting book than it was. It wasn't. If you really love New Spring, I'm happy for you. It wasn't my thing. So surprisingly for me, I got through way more in June than is normal, just because I was pretty slow at work, kids at daycare. I had a lot of extra reading time, honestly, and I burned through some books. So of course, I actually went ahead and did Small Favor in about 2 days, and then had a couple days left, and I did Turncoat in a day and a half. So basically about 3.5 days, I read 2 Dresden books. And then I wrapped it up with New Spring, which I just talked about. These 2 books, wow. If you know anything about the Dresden Files or my feelings towards it, I've loved it since the first book. And I haven't really hit a major book that I didn't like other than Blood Rights, which, I mean, Blood Rights is fine. It wasn't like the worst book in the world, and it's still a Dresden book, so there's interesting things that happen in it. Small Favor and Turncoat were both excellent. Small Favor, man, this White Knight, freaking Proven Guilty, Deadbeat, Death Masks, they're just so good. Like, if I had to rank these books right now, my S tier would just be like flooded. Or I don't know, man, these books are good. I'm gonna have reviews up for Small Favor and Turncoat later this week, so definitely look out for those. I'm not gonna spoil anything here, but definitely I think Small Favor is now going to be my current favorite. But I mean, Turncoat's so good too, and I loved Proven Guilty. I loved White Knight. Just Dresden is just so good now. And what I will say is, so everybody in Discord is pushing me to just binge Dresden, because everybody swears like once you hit this part of the book series, you can't stop. So I've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 main Dresden books, and then the 2 side books. Which is Briefcases and Side Job. So everybody tells me that I won't be able to stop, which, I mean, shit, I read 2 Dresden books in 3 days, okay? That's pretty bingey. Everybody wants me to read Changes, and that is definitely on my July TBR. I'm 100% reading it, and I've been making a lot of jokes about not binging it, and there was actually a chapter in New Spring called Changes, so I was messing with everybody in Discord saying that, hey guys, I read Changes. I finally was convinced to read the first line of Changes, which I was told if I did that, I would not be able to put it down, and I was absolutely going to read it. I will say, the first line of Changes is a gigantic what the fuck moment, and I do want to read it, and I read the first chapter. And then I pulled myself back in, I restrained myself, and I started A Time of Dread, because I have an obligation. I'm doing a collaboration for that. And then I'm going to read The Howling Dark. Howling Dark. There's no the, because I'm doing a collab for that too. And then I'll read Changes. And then we'll see what happens to the rest of the TBR. Maybe I'll blow it up and just want to binge Dresden. Who knows? We'll see how good Changes is. And everybody says like that's one of, if not the best Dresden book. So I'm really looking forward to it. But we'll see where this takes me. But that wraps up my June. I read a lot, actually. So, awesome. And I'm really liking a lot of these different audiobooks, getting these different narrators. It helps me read more, honestly. And, you know, on any kind of driving trips or activities that I have headphones and I am just sort of alone, doing laundry, cooking, whatever it is, I can listen to an audiobook. That helps out a lot. And I mean, the Dresden audiobooks are great. A lot of the Wheel of Time stuff, at least for the slog, I use it to get through it. I'm really liking this blend of audio and physical reading. And I'm really looking forward to July now too, because I've got my July TBR on the channel, lots of good books coming. And who knows, maybe the rest of the year I'll just end up flying through Dresden in the next 2 months, we'll see. But that wraps up my June, but I would love to know what you all read recently, what your wrap-ups were, what your TBRs look like, whatever, anything goes. Drop in the comments down below, jump in Discord, chat with me about it. I'd love to hear about it. Patreon is there as well, always optional, always appreciated. I love each and every one of you that gives me money to do this. It's super cool. Just like, it's a nice side hobby for me. It's a lot of fun, and I like interacting with you guys. And as the more howlers we get, the more people get involved in picking books that I read and review on the channel, and we can sort of do some buddy reads and stuff too. So that's a lot of fun. And yeah, until next time, guys, keep reading.